today we have Andy here, who is, I mentioned, he's the commercial director of 55 Redefined. They're the company that we are in partnership with Informa Markets as we drive our own age inclusion program. I'm going to hand you over to Andy because I think what he's going to show you today is absolutely fantastic. So Andy, let me hand over to you and you can take it away.
Thanks very much, Mike, and Czech, as always, is in the post for that rather eloquent introduction. Before we get into today's session, I thought we'd hear from perhaps the original redefiner, Sir Richard Branson. So hopefully if I share my screen, here's Sir Richard.
What's your feeling about ageism, and why do you think corporate CEOs need to wake up to the benefits of older workers?
I really don't think age is relevant. I mean, the only time that I realise that I'm not in my 20s is when I look in the mirror.
Well, hopefully that's woken everybody up from their sort of mid-morning slumber with the sunshine. As Mike said, my name's Andy.Simpson. I'm Commercial Director for 55 Redefined, and we're the preeminent voice on the commercial impact of an ageing population. We help large enterprises attract, grow and engage over 50s talent and consumers. I have three aims for this morning's session. Firstly, that everybody on today's call goes away feeling informed. There's a new phrase in town: being longevity literate is now a business imperative for any leadership executive team. So I certainly hope by the end of this session you will be more informed, but also with a sense of the video clips that we've got to break up the monotony of my voice, you'll feel suitably inspired too. And thirdly, I'd like to hope that you're going to feel like you are equipped to take action and have an idea as where to start when you come off of this call. And as we do that, what I think we'll be doing is debunking a load of myths, and we're going to look at what others are doing. And I'm delighted, as always, that Mike from Informa is here to help us do that. So an ageing population is a global mega trend. It's impacting all of us as individuals, our customers, our colleagues, and every company in every sector as the working population continues to age. I thought I'd share some numbers with you. But don't worry, you're not going to be tested at the end of the session as to what those numbers were and what indeed they mean. And I am blessed with a massive repository of stats and information, but I've chosen to highlight these four this morning. We've actually added 30 healthy years to life expectancy in the last century. And 50% of babies born today will unbelievably live to 104 if you're in the US, 103 in the UK. In good old Japan, that rises to 107. If you're born in Japan today, you have a 1 in 2 chance of living to 107. Is it any wonder, therefore, that the sale of diapers in Japan is more for the over 80s than it is for the under 2s? Quite a shocking and frightening statistic. And at the same time, our working age population over the next two decades will shrink by 25%, whilst in the same period, the over 60s grow at over 40%. It's an economic time bomb waiting to happen. And it's grabbing the attention of governments, academics, and forward-thinking corporates as we seek to understand and plan for the workforce of tomorrow. I think by the end of the session, you'll get a sense that we're going to have to completely rethink our businesses and our own personal journeys as we navigate longer life. After all, we're never going to be as young again as we are at this particular moment today. Here at 55 Redefined, we're committed to retiring the term retirement. As a shrinking population is creating critical skill shortages, I'm sure you're seeing that in your own companies, from actuaries to mainframe engineers, through to the volumes of junior entry-level employees to run businesses and enable them to grow. Longevity and no change in retirement age means we are woefully underprepared for later life. And if we either stop working or are forced to stop working, we're likely to have done so 10 years too soon compared to previous generations. The bottom line is, and maybe it's not terribly palatable, is that we're going to have to work longer and save more to avoid the economic time bomb that I've alluded to. It's expected that we're going to have to add 10 years to our career horizons. So look, effectively, the three-stage life of education, work and retirement is now over. The new stage life of 50 to 75 is being experienced for the very first time. This age group are ambitious and excited about the future. They're experiencing, if you like, a second adolescence with new careers, new relationships, and are shocked by the difference in health, wealth, and experiences compared to previous generations. But of course, they're going to need to be supported. They're going to need to be supported by forward-thinking organisations who have the appetite to recognise and anticipate that they can no longer allow skills and experience to walk out the door. Think books leaving libraries never to return. Organisations who are set up to have safe career transition conversations are the ones that are going to lead the way. I just wanted to highlight some very recent thinking that came out of the Harvard Business Review in March of this year. And it talks about the critical need to engage with employees differently to fully understand how they as organisations are going to ensure that they share, preserve and replenish experience. And while I'll give you a few moments just to take in what's on the slide, I just wanted to mention one organisation that I've come across recently. Zurich are a fantastic example in looking to do this, where they've got sabbaticals, fractional working, understanding where and when employees can work, and writing all of this into HR policies and making it a USP in their talent attraction space. I would urge you, when you have a few moments, to go on to Google and Google Zurich Life work patterns, and you'll see an amazing new story there. And simply put, if you don't have an age strategy, you're extremely unlikely to have a growth strategy for your business. So why focus on an over 50s workforce and the power of intergenerational activity? We believe here at 55 Redefined and forward-thinking companies like Informa believe it's a commercial, colleague and customer imperative. Organisations that achieve the blend of the crystallised intelligence of the over 50s together with the fluid intelligence of a younger generation will surely win the day. But why over 50s in particular? Whether it's attrition, absenteeism, net promoter scores or people scores, over 50s talent can make a huge difference and help out on those burning platforms that exist in organisations today, whilst the workforce for tomorrow is planned. Of course, we hear more and more that Gen Z, for example, expect and want to career hop. So let's look at a couple of these. Reduced attrition. Over 50s are 5 times less likely to change jobs within the first 18 months. Their lower absenteeism is amplified by a cemented disposition to work. Age has a strong correlation with customer outcomes. Over 50s are, for want of a better phrase, forged in fire. They bring life experience to bear. And what's really interesting too is that younger generations often feel happier and safer, think retail, when older workers are there alongside them. This hidden talent pool is there, it is available, and it wants to work. But it wants to work for organisations that can give them a stated purpose. Perhaps progression, not necessarily promotion, and for organisations who truly want them. So I just want to stop at this point, one, to get a sip of water, but also to make sure that there's a common understanding for those on the call of the difference between multi-generational and intergenerational. Multi-generational is a term that we are hearing more and more, and it's almost become part of the standard professional vernacular. It's highly likely that most businesses, if not necessarily most functions or teams, are multi-generational. They physically have, for the first time ever, up to 5 different generations within them for the very first time. Multi-generational teams obviously bring existing benefits, but almost through osmosis. Whereas intergenerational is how you proactively bring older and younger together with a common purpose through deliberate intervention and deliberate joint activity, whether it's reverse mentoring, deployment of AI, transformation projects, community programs. That blend is very, very powerful. And so you can see from the slide here that we talk about a balance between employees looking for promotion versus those wanting to mentor, improved happiness levels, satisfaction, holidays at different times, more able to mirror and emphasize with customers and audiences of all ages, create that broader pipeline, indeed, of talent, where a wider range of skills and experience and diversity provide you with those better customer outcomes that I spoke about. And there's a fantastic study back in 2022 from Gartner, where it states that 200% more likely to exceed financial targets when the frontline decision-making team reflected an age-diverse and inclusive culture. So when we're looking for fact, research, reassurance to draw straight lines to commercial outcomes, here is one that says exactly that. So, AI. I mentioned it on the previous slide. And here's, I guess, time now to almost debunk yet another myth around older population and older workers. In the Harvard Business Review that I spoke about earlier, they recognise the idiocy of the statement that over 50s are slow to learn and can't adapt to tech. In fact, they position, quite ironically, that this is the generation, of course, that's gone from paper to microfilm to fax, to desktop to laptop and to mobile. Of course, they can be tech-enabled. They're not so much out of touch, but differently in touch because of how cognitive abilities mature. For example, if you think back during the pandemic, they made the tech transition far more capably than employers assumed they would. Alongside skill gaps, how to embrace AI is probably the topic that most leaders are seeking to understand. Now, I'm not an expert in AI in any way, shape, or form, but I can tell you that conversely to common assumption, AI is actually driving an accelerated need for older talent. Why is that? Well, their life professional experience is required to train the AI datasets. It's about the life learning that informs the chatbot, not just the tech backdrop to delivering it. For example, would you rather have a novice shaping how a chatbot answers customer inquiries, or an experienced older member of the team, or new talent into the organisation? As new AI systems transform how we gather and distribute information, there'll be a growing need for people with the experience and crystallised intelligence to evaluate the performance of these systems that we're putting in place. Not to mention, of course, to notice when they go awry. Whilst IQ starts to decline, they reckon, from around age 30, knowledge and expertise, fortunately, keeps increasing even beyond the age of 80. When it comes to learning new things, there really is no age limit. So innovation needs experience, whether it's institutional memory that equals pragmatism and clarity, or previously being first digital innovators so that they can understand what strategies worked and what didn't. They bring a historical perspective to it, which helps to mitigate risk, to address system failure and workforce resistance. And those invaluable soft skills that AI cannot replicate equals empathy, critical thinking, complex communication, and adaptability, essential to guide AI development ethically and, most importantly, humanely. And lastly, they're well placed through their adaptability to reassure younger generations. But these perspectives are not just essential to the deployment and development of AI, but to product teams, marketing teams, and particular customer service teams, where mirror matching your customer consumer is going to be essential. Here again, we can proactively create intergenerational projects and multi-generational teams to create a winning strategy. So let's look at some additional context as to why intergenerational setup is key. If you solely have younger creatives trying to sell products and services to those that hold the wealth, you cannot avoid a mismatch. Today, less than 5% of all advertising spend is dedicated to over 50s. How on earth has that happened, given 63% of all spend is by over 50s, and here in the UK, over 74% of total wealth is held by them too? Older consumers are the only major growth opportunity in our economy, yet they are subjected to stair lifts, river cruises, funeral plans, and the inevitable Viagra and incontinence plans. Websites routinely think it's aspirational for over 50s to view 20-something models. It's not. It's actually missing the point and quite demeaning. But it's not just advertising where it's so visible. Our workplaces are ageist. Whether that's unconscious or otherwise, our workplaces, and particularly our attraction processes, are biased against older workers. Through the research that we did through our unretirement uprising and shut out and forced out and overlooked reports, we came across that serious bias in the HR and recruitment functions, where recruiters aged 25 to 30 are 39% less likely to present an over 50s candidate versus recruiters aged 46 to 50. And likewise, HR leaders aged 25 to 30 are 19% less likely to retrain and reskill over 50s than a 46 to 50-year-old HR leader. And one of the questions I would just drop in there and ask people to consider is when you look at your own talent attraction recruitment teams, how many of them are actually over 50? Experience shows that it's highly likely to be none or just the one. So I'm sure that those facts, and apologies that it's been somewhat of a single dialogue, but I'm sure those facts resonate. But just in case, I thought I'd show you this video taken from YouTube.
how's it going? You can stand right there, that's your mark. How you doing?
I'm great, how are you?
Great.
Awesome.
Just tell us your first name and your age.
My real age?
My name is Paolo. I'm 25 years old.
My name is Daniela, and I'm 19.
24.
35.
31. 33.
I'm 26 years old.
What age do you consider to be old?
Late 40s?
Maybe 50.
I feel like 30 is a new 20, so I'd say like 40 is old.
I'd probably say 50s.
I'd like you to show me how an old person would cross the street. Show me how an old person would send a text message. How might an old person do a push-up? What about jumping jacks? Okay, hang on. There's someone I want you to meet.
Hello, I'm Birch. I'm 66.
Hi, I'm Daphne, and I'm 68.
I'm Dee, and I'm 55.
George Fassbinder, 75. Wow.
My name is Parvati. I'm 70.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
We're gonna give you about 2 minutes to teach each other something that you are good at.
I can teach you a jump that I do.
Okay, please.
Both of your legs go up, and your arm goes up, and your left arm goes like to the side. Ready?
Okay.
1, 2, 3. Lift 1, 2, 3. And bring it to your heart. And bring it to your heart. Add the head in. Yeah.
You want to try to get your balance and raise up. Now, you can bring your legs and your feet up. It's hard, right?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. So when you come out of a turn, either way, you go back to that basics.
Over. Now forward. Over. Yeah.
Square it like this, and give me a hook. Hook. Jab, cross, hook, and then we'll go like this, all right?
1, 2, 3.
Now, what age might you consider to be old?
Probably 80 or 90. He could just do everything that I told him to do.
An age that I would consider to be old now might be 100.
Do you remember what you said?
Yeah, I said in the 50s, I thought that would be old. But when I thought about it, like...
Wait a minute.
I'm sorry.
I can do it. It really changed my thinking of what old is.
You've taught me something today. Clearly, there's no way she's old, you know?
Now I know from today, hey, I don't look at age.
At my age, I feel like I did when I was in my 20s.
There's so many things that I still want to do. There's so many things that I can do. As long as I'm growing and learning, then age doesn't matter.
When people start stopping, that's when they start getting old.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Daphne. It was great meeting you.
How long have you been doing this? Is this a new skill?
40 years.
Wow.
I think it's a beautifully shot way of just demonstrating the level of unconscious bias around what people think is old these days. Slightly twee, but with some really powerful points in there. And the link I'd like to make is that the over 50s is, if we're not careful, a massive talent miss. Over 50% of existing over 50s want and or will need to work beyond 50. And that problem is only going to be exasperated and exaggerated as we go forward. If you think about it, people are marrying later in life, taking their first mortgages later in life. When they are having babies, they're having them later in life. which means they're paying university fees, etc., all later in life, which means the financial dependency is going to stretch far beyond what we've seen previously, and certainly a minimum of those 10 extra career years that I mentioned earlier. And another just very quick sobering thought. I was with Adam Hawkins of LinkedIn last week, and LinkedIn, I'm sure you'll all know, have millions, if not billions, sets of data points. And he was telling me that through their interaction, obviously, on the mainframe of LinkedIn, less than 1 in 5 under 25s have or can recount having somebody aged 50 playing a prominent part in their lives. Now, if you think about that commercially, how on earth can we serve a customer base of all ages without ensuring we have multi-generational talent at the front line and beyond? And I guess I would just ask the question, do you have that data? Do you have that insight? Or are you potentially missing out on that talent pool? And it's safe to say, that not everyone is getting it right. Some are making the news for all the wrong reasons. And there is, of course, a risk management element to this as well. But you'll all recall the rather poor press that EY got in specifically the Financial Times, where they couldn't appoint a 58-year-old as CEO because of a forced retirement policy at 60, and their CEOs had to have a minimum of a 3-year tenure. And actually, on that risk management side, age-related claims is the lowest growing case category for employment tribunals. And yet 96% of them are settled out of court because the companies do not have the data, they do not have the evidence to fully demonstrate that they're an age-inclusive employer. But there are some, and actually a growing number, thankfully, that are getting it right. And here are just a few of the fantastic brands. Think of your last EasyJet flight. How comforting was it to be looked after by that older member of the team? We've been engaged with AXA, who've been on an age inclusion journey with us for the last 2 years, reshaping their hiring strategies and creating age-specific ERGs. Or EEBT, who have recognised on the high street their retail customer average is 52, yet their in-store customer team has an average age of 27. And so they've realised they have a complete mismatch and are addressing that demographic imbalance for the good of the consumer and, of course, the colleague, and, not to put too fine a point on it, their balance sheet. But it's also great to be able to include one of our own on this call in that forward-thinking enterprise category. And I'm delighted that Mike from Informa is with us again. And I thought it'd be a good idea for Mike and I just to bounce around a few things that can demonstrate what they've been doing in the age inclusion and multi-gen space. So thanks, Mike. Thanks for doing this. I know that the last time the guys met in person, you alluded to and gave a bit of narrative around this topic. But what I'd like to do is just ask you 3 or 4 questions so that we can ensure that those on the call feel that this is a topic that they can wrestle with today. So let's start at the very beginning, Mike. When and how did the opportunity to explore the benefits of age inclusion first come to your attention?
It was it's over a couple of years ago now, not long after I got the role, and I was thinking about the broader spectrum of diversity, equity, and inclusion. I knew that one of the areas that tended to be overlooked the most, particularly when you look at those kind of 9 protected characteristics, was age. And I wanted to do something about that. And I started off by speaking to 1 or 2 colleagues who said, yeah, we definitely need to do something around age. And interestingly enough, as I started to figure out what can we actually do, I did speak to another company prior to speaking with 55 Redefined. And the only difference, well, wasn't just a difference, but the reason why I then got interested in 55 Redefined was, one, you tended to be a little bit more global in your approach, which was what we needed to have. But when I first met, I think it was Gina, it may have been Helen, and some of what you've actually provided, some of those stats just blew me away. And it really brings it home to you that, wow, if we don't do anything now, we will run into a problem at some point in the future. And particularly this industry, this is an amazing industry. But if you look at recruitment across a lot of the industry, there are people between, or people under 30, maybe even under 25, that are really coming into the industry in large numbers. And just to finish off, I can remember speaking to a particular colleague who was over 50, and he said to me, Mike, I actually feel I am slowly becoming invisible in the organization. I'm seeing less opportunities to grow, develop, learn new skills, and I'm not seeing any promotion opportunities at all. So that's kind of where it started. We also got Lindsay in, and I was running a virtual DE&I program within the company, a virtual digital program. And I, through Gina, got Lindsay to do a fireside chat with one of our HR directors. And I can tell you that so many people commented afterwards how this was fantastic. We need to do more work in this particular space. So that's how we got here in the first place.
Fantastic story, Mike, and thank you for choosing us and not the other unnamed organisation. Certainly very, very appreciative of that. So when you had this sort of, to a degree, blinkers sort of taking off, what are the practical steps that you've done since those fireside chats to actually bring about change and noticeable change for the organisation?
Yeah, sure. So obviously when we started speaking more and more with yourselves, I decided that I wanted to go towards the age inclusive accredited program. But I wanted to know what that was all about. How do we actually become accredited? So we kind of went through the work to do that, which also included completing, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Andy, it was like the redefining age survey.
Yeah, the readiness ready type score. Yeah.
Yeah. So we also went through that just to see where we were, what we needed to do. No surprise with the results, but we mobilized a team together to go through the accreditation program in terms of what we needed to do, and it just took off from there. People jumped on board, got involved, were excited about it, and then when we became accredited, that was huge for us. And people were putting the logo in their email signatures, and we made a big song and dance about it across the business, and more people wanted to get engaged across the business.
Thanks, Mike. And just one final question. Often we find that this becomes either the sole domain of HR or the sole domain of D&I. What steps did you take perhaps to navigate internal stakeholders and budget holders to get to a position where you could take these actions that you've already spoken about?
Yeah, well, we have a system called Portal, which is an intranet where we provide all types of news and information. So we had a big splash around age inclusion and what it meant. Lots of people fed back on it. In addition to that, there was some training that took place. So we went through a whole range of hiring managers training, and also leadership training, where we had really kind of positioned age inclusion as one of our key initiatives that we wanted to push forward. And I didn't have any issues with any of our leaders, agreeing to it and wanting to drive it, because I guess most of our leaders were in that age bracket in the company anyway. But they saw it as, as a really good idea. Equally, and I think that one of the things that I'm really most proud of is we have got in the program, we've got 2 Gen Zs who are driving this program internally for us. Brilliant. So they really understand the value of being able to kind of bring that intergenerational workforce together and learn from each other. And we've got things like, we're running now our 4th cohort of reverse mentoring. And all of our leaders who have been through the program absolutely loved it, with feedback about what they've learned from our younger colleagues and what they will do differently, because these things do change behaviors going forward. So that's been fantastic. And I'll just quickly finish up in terms of what we're doing next. We are going to trial your upcoming platform, Me Redefined. Yeah. And I actually got the organization to buy into that, which is great. So we're going through the process right now. I think the trial starts in September, but we're really excited to be able to trial that, because what I want to do, if everything goes well, is to have that as one of our benefits in the organization going forward. That's where I want to take it to.
And for those that aren't aware and obviously wouldn't be aware, Me Redefined is the very first coaching platform that has both the employee and the employer very much in mind, so that it can produce data sets and take away that sort of cloud that hangs over those career transition conversations. Thanks, Mike. I was about to ask you where you thought you'd go next, but you've answered it superbly well in saying that you've already got that sorted. Yeah. And you're looking at Me Redefined. So would it be fair to say, Mike, that this may have started as a bolt-on to what you were doing, but actually now it's much more about the fact that you're building it in to the fabric of the organisation?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you mentioned it earlier on, Andy. It has to be a business imperative. It has to be, when you think about your whole business and the talent that you have and what's happening with talent in general, if we're not focused on making sure that we have a great talent strategy that encompasses age inclusion, as you quite rightly said, if you don't have an age strategy, you don't have a growth strategy. I think that I love that term as well. But I think it's important that you have to constantly be thinking about the talent that you are retaining in the organization, the talent coming in, and how they all kind of work together going forward. So, yeah.
Thanks, Mike. Some fantastic insight to what you're doing there. And also, it's so pleasing to hear that something that started as potentially just being bolted on to the other D&I activities now weaving its way through the organisation. So where would we suggest that you start, guys? And Auden and Mike asked me to specifically cover this. So I think it's fair to say that today's workforce is probably in an unprecedented state of flux. With organisations, we've got serious talent gaps to fill, and the most critical positions require those sophisticated skills and I guess experience and social acumen that isn't going to be met by AI or indeed the training of a decreasing numbers of an already inexperienced workforce. And as Mike already said, if you don't have an age strategy, you won't have a growth strategy. So I just wanted to concentrate on 3 main things. And I appreciate the easy bit for me this morning is sharing the key facts and the latest research, providing insight and findings. But I also want to equip you so that you feel when you leave the call today, you can take action. You've probably already sensed that we've been on the call, what, 3/4 of an hour, and if you're not careful, the topic can be completely overwhelming. And I think whether you decide to bolt onto existing activity in inclusion space, or preferably build it into your overall age strategy across your executive, in order to determine the workforce of tomorrow, if you like, here are the three main things that I would suggest and concentrate on. First of all, data. There's the maxim there, in God we trust, everyone else must bring data. I'm pretty sure there isn't a person on this call who is not asked to produce data in order to justify spend or justify direction of travel. And this is particularly, I guess, prominent where you're looking to have a build-in approach because you want this to be a centralized strategy across functions and across the executive. Of course, having this data will help you secure attention and, of course, budget. But you are going to you're going to need to begin to track and understand the age-related data. And if you're unsure where to start, we can support you in two ways. Mike has already mentioned the readiness score that they undertook as an organisation. Now, this is an easily digestible cultural sentiment score, point in time around your age-inclusive readiness. It will take less than 30 minutes to complete and provide you with benchmarks, recommended areas of attention, and a template to action. As I said, it's a great place to start, and it will equip you for the inevitable internal discussions that you're going to need. The second thing around data that we can do, this is really about providing you with an even fuller set of strategic insight, is our age diagnostic, which can ingest your workforce data, analyse it through the eyes of an over 50s worker, and together with an intersectional lens, provide all the data you will need to provide a C-suite level action plan as to the benefits and business case for age inclusion. However, I appreciate that when you're looking at data, that does always seem to be a sort of a longer trail, if you like. It's going to take a bit longer to look at and achieve. So the next couple of things, I think, are things that you can do immediately and with very little thought. Think about how you pivot your talent and people strategy to be inclusive of over 50s throughout the rest of 2024 and indeed into 25. Look at your hiring processes, your career pages, etc. Do you look and feel like an age-inclusive employer? Are you attractive to this hidden talent pool? Are you still using phrases like early careers or digital natives, which is a phrase, by the way, the over 50s can never, ever belong to? Have a look at the Oxford Dictionary for digital natives, and you'll see that by very definition, it precludes over 50s. Does your apprentice programme include more age groups than just graduates? Does it encourage reskilling in later life? The other thing you can do around talent and people strategy is to look at over 50 inclusive job boards. We have our own jobs boards, there are other jobs boards out there, but where you bring organisations who are principally looking to mine that over 50s talent and have over 50s talent coming onto those jobs boards, you obviously have a perfect Venn diagram. But also you might have other more specific or bespoke talent gaps or recruitment challenges. And here you can look at specific nurturing campaigns to find and deploy that hidden talent. If you're not doing these things or aren't sure if you're doing these things to the fullest extent and to the most benefit, of course, we can help. And lastly, as per Mike and Informa, we would invite you to become an age-inclusive employer. Go public with your age credentials, back up your newfound desire and understanding to be visibly age inclusive by being totally visible to the over 50s. Our Charter of Commitments and associated PR lets this community know that you have recognised them, and whilst you may not be perfect today, you are intent on a journey to be better tomorrow. And you'll be joining some massive brands in doing so: Informa, Boots, AXA, Bank of Ireland, John Lewis, Dentsu, to name but a few. Now, I think we have a few moments for Q&As, but before we get there, I just wanted to leave you with a final video, which very much typifies today's over 50s. And it's content that we put together at the very start of our own 55 Redefined journey, but which we remain very, very proud of.
Age is just a number, they say. Youth is wasted on the young. Calm down, boomer. Pipe down, old man. You're not 21 anymore. The jibes, the taunts, trying to give me flack. Harmless words on birthday cards saying I'm close to a heart attack. Me? I don't care, because I'm happy in my skin. Yes, a little grey around the edges, some cheeky wrinkles when I grin, but this is me. I embrace it. I'm as happy as sin. Yeah, I can still pull all-nighters. I can go clubbing in Berlin. No flat caps, no grandad tweed, no comfy slippers for me. Give me some trainers, denim, and a reassuringly expensive white tee. Yes, I can tell you about the heady days of Acid House, the Stone Roses, and now that's what I call Music 3. But how about I tell you how good I am at Fortnite, how I spit lines like Cardi B. Don't judge a book by its cover. Don't skip through the scene. The best years of your life are only now coming on strong. I mean, you've lived, you've loved, you've lost, you've fallen down and picked yourself up more times than you care to admit. You know when you connect with your true passion, you will never quit. So you know what? You and me, we're done. Done with the crap careers, crap relationships, all those short fuses. Stop being afraid. Stop making excuses. You're more ambitious than ever. You've got energy to spare. I'm here to tell you to try something new. I'm here to remind you there is a great big wide world out there. Change that career. Book that holiday. Take up those windsurfing lessons you've always wanted to try. This is your time. You choose what to do. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. This is your moment to walk in the sun. This is the moment to remember you are number one. I mean, just look at me. I'm contented. Actually, no, I'm happy. I'm happy and I'm here. I'm here and I am ready to thrive. I'm dancing like everyone's watching. I'm dancing at 55.